My husband texted from Vegas. I just married my coworker. You're pathetic, by the way. I replied, cool. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
You know, I never thought my life would ever take such a sudden, sharp turn. I mean, I'd always thought my marriage was steady. Not perfect, but steady. My name is Alec Rose, and I've always been someone who values stability, who believes in trust, who believes in love. I worked hard, stayed late at my design job, came home tired, but happy. My evenings were quiet. My little apartment, a cup of tea, maybe a book, and my husband. Well, I thought he was the kind of person who'd be there for me, always. That evening started like any other. I remember walking in the door after work, the kind of fatigue that makes you sink into your couch without thinking twice. I set my bag down, boiled water for tea, and pulled out my phone to check messages. I expected maybe a "Hey, love, I'm on my way." Instead, there, it was. It was a text from him. I read it. And then I read it again. Just married my coworker. You're pathetic, BTW. Those words didn't sound like something a loving husband would say. My hands started to shake. My tea kettle boiled over without me noticing. My breath caught. I stared at that message like it was some bad dream. I thought maybe it was a mistake, maybe some cruel hack, but something deep inside me whispered, this wasn't random, not a joke, not an accident. It was deliberate. My heart began to pound as confusion and anger tangled inside me. How? Why? When that night, I couldn't sleep, I lay in bed staring at my phone, replaying those words again and again, like a movie stuck on the worst scene. I remembered every laugh we'd shared, every promise, every plan. It all suddenly felt shattered. My mind went through every memory, every argument, every "I love you." And it was like peeling away layers I didn't know were hiding something ugly underneath. By morning, I was exhausted, but I couldn't ignore it. I went about my day, mechanically meetings, small talk with colleagues, but my mind was somewhere else, lost in that text. At lunch, I found myself scrolling through old messages between him and me, looking for clues, looking for something that would explain this. But all I found were little cracks, strange jokes late at night, vague excuses, things I'd overlooked before. When I got home, everything felt different. My apartment felt quieter, heavier. I called him, no answer. Again, no answer. My hands were trembling as I pulled up my phone to check his location. Vegas. My stomach dropped. Vegas. What the hell was he doing in Vegas? And why did he text me like that? Then came another buzz. My phone lit up with a photo. My hands froze. My breath caught. It was him, my husband, dressed in a suit, smiling. Standing beside him was a woman I recognized, a coworker of his. They were in front of a chapel, wedding bells and neon lights behind them. Everything around me shifted. I felt dizzy. My world tilted. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might collapse. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or throw the phone across the room. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't just a text. This was reality. I sat there for hours, staring at the picture, replaying every moment I thought I knew of him. My trust was gone, replaced with a storm of emotions I couldn't untangle. Betrayal, anger, confusion, pain, and beneath it all, fear. Fear of what this meant, fear of what I would find if I looked deeper, fear of the truth. I kept replaying the question in my head. How long had this been going on? Was it weeks, months, years? How could someone you trust, someone you call your partner, just throw it all away? By the time night fell again, I'd made my decision. I couldn't sit here pretending. I couldn't keep wondering. I had to go to Vegas. I didn't know what I'd find there. I didn't know if I'd find answers or if I'd be breaking myself forever. But I knew I had to see for myself. I booked the ticket that night. I didn't tell anyone. I just knew, whatever happened in Vegas, my life would never be the same again. And honestly, I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming. I arrived in Vegas just after midnight. The city greeted me with its usual chaos, flashing lights, music spilling out of every building, laughter and shouting mixing into one loud hum. I stepped out of the cab, clutching my coat tighter around me. Though it was warm, my heart felt cold. The hotel where they were staying was near the strip. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe him to look ashamed, maybe to deny it, maybe to beg me not to come. But I didn't know if I was ready for any of that. I just knew I had to see him, had to face this head on. When I walked into the lobby, something inside me felt hollow. The laughter from the casino nearby sounded distant, like it wasn't part of my world anymore. I asked at the desk for his room number. The clerk gave it without a question, almost like this was normal. That made it worse. I walked down the hallway, every step echoing in my mind. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my bag. When I reached the door, I stopped. I could hear voices inside, laughing, clinking glasses. My chest tightened. I didn't knock, I just opened the door, and there they were. My husband, smiling, holding a champagne glass, and my coworker standing beside him in a white dress that shimmered under the light. They were laughing, their faces glowing, completely unaware of me standing there. My breath caught. It was surreal. I felt like I'd stepped into someone else's life by mistake. Everything I thought I knew was gone in that second. I didn't move. My brain couldn't process. It was like watching a movie you wish you could turn off, but your eyes stay glued to the screen. Finally, I spoke. My voice came out quiet but sharp. Why? They turned. My husband looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not guilt, not surprise, just cold calm. She smiled smugly, as though she had rehearsed this moment. My legs felt weak. My mind spun. I didn't know whether to storm in, scream, cry, or just walk away. But I knew this wasn't just about them. This was about me, my life, my dignity. I stepped inside. Every heartbeat felt like thunder in my chest. I didn't know what I'd say. I just knew I couldn't leave without confronting this truth. I wanted answers, but I wasn't prepared for what I was about to uncover, because what came next wasn't just betrayal, it was something much deeper. I remember the moment I stepped into that hotel room, as if it were carved into my mind forever. The air felt heavier, thick with laughter and champagne, but to me, it was suffocating. I could barely breathe. My husband turned fully toward me, still holding his glass, as if nothing had happened. She glanced at me with a smile that felt like a knife in my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear apart every piece of him in that moment, but instead, I felt this strange stillness, like my body had decided to shut down to protect me. My voice came out quieter than I expected. How long? They exchanged a look. The kind of look that says too much without saying anything. My stomach churned, and my hands began to shake again. I wanted answers, but the silence between them made my heart sink deeper. Then he spoke, not with remorse, not with regret, just flat, cold words. It's none of your business now. That cut deeper than anything. Those words weren't just betrayal, they were a dismissal of everything we had built. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I swallowed them back. I couldn't let him see me break. I looked at her. She was smiling, holding his arm like they were in some dream world. I wondered how she could stand there without shame, without knowing the destruction she'd caused. I wanted to say something, but my throat was dry, my mind clouded with hurt. Instead, I turned and walked toward the door. My chest was pounding so loud I could almost hear it over the noise of the hallway. I wasn't going to leave without getting clarity. I just needed one last thing, an answer that made sense. I stopped in the hallway, my hand on the doorframe, turning back to them. Why Vegas? I asked. My voice broke slightly. Why now? My husband looked away. She stayed silent, watching me like a curious stranger. The tension in that hallway felt almost physical, like it was pressing against my skin. He finally said, "You'll understand someday." Then, he shut the door. I stood there frozen. The muffled laughter and music from inside the room were replaced by silence. And in that silence, my mind raced. I couldn't understand how something that was supposed to be sacred, trust, love, commitment could be thrown away so easily. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the realization that I'd been living a life where I didn't see the cracks forming until it was too late. That night, I sat on the cold hotel floor, leaning against the wall, phone in my hand. I replayed every moment we had together, every conversation, every laugh, every fight, and I realized something. This wasn't just about him, it was about how easily we let people in our lives shape who we are, how we let silence cover the truth, how we ignore signs because we want to believe in something we can't hold anymore. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I felt broken, but there was something inside me, something raw that refused to be silent. I knew I couldn't walk away without understanding why this happened. And so I decided then and there, I wasn't going to leave Vegas without finding the truth. Little did I know, the truth would shatter me more than anything I'd ever imagined. The night air outside felt sharp, almost electric, as I stepped out of the hotel. Vegas didn't sleep, it pulsed, alive with neon lights, laughter, and music. But I felt like I was walking through a shadow, detached from all of it. My hands still trembled, and my mind was spinning faster than my feet could carry me. I wandered toward the edge of the strip, my phone pressed to my ear. I wasn't sure who I was calling, maybe a friend, maybe someone who could tell me this wasn't real. But my phone stayed silent in my hand. I couldn't bring myself to dial. Instead, I walked, my heels clicking against the pavement, echoed through the night, matching the pounding in my chest. I replayed his words over and over. "You'll understand someday." What could that possibly mean? Was there some excuse I didn't know? Or was it just a cruel way of shutting me out forever? My mind kept going back to her, the way she stood in that hotel room, smiling. She didn't look guilty. She looked victorious. And it made something inside me twist. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers. But fear kept me rooted. I found myself outside a quiet cafe tucked away from the main strip. I slipped inside, ordering a coffee I didn't even want, and sat in the corner where I could see the street. I needed to think, to breathe, but my thoughts kept spiraling back to him, to the life we had built, to how quickly it all crumbled. Hours passed. I didn't drink my coffee. I just sat there, staring at my phone, wondering if I should call him again, text him, demand to know why. I thought about walking back to the hotel and forcing that door open, but something inside whispered no, not yet, not without knowing the full truth. Finally, I stood up. I stepped back out into the chaos of Vegas, the lights washing over me like waves I couldn't escape. I knew I couldn't rest until I got answers, until I knew why he did this, not just to me, but to us. The next morning, I woke up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city. I hadn't slept well, the weight of everything pressing against me. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Hesitating, I answered. A voice almost cold, spoke on the other end. "You shouldn't be here, Alec, you're digging too deep." My blood ran cold. My heart jumped into my throat. I gripped the phone tighter, my voice shaking. "Who is this?" The voice didn't answer, just silence. Then the line went dead. I looked out the motel window. The city glittered in the distance, and I realized this was no longer just about betrayal. This was bigger, much bigger. And whatever truth I was chasing, it was about to put me in danger. I didn't know it then, but that call was the start of something far darker than I could ever imagine, something that would change me forever.